African American actors, actresses, writers, directors, cinematographers, and comedians are responsible for some of the biggest Hollywood productions today, and in some cases are the creative forces behind them. But that wasn't always the case. Hello, my name is Shanice Bolden, and I'm a digital cinematography student at Full Sail University, and I'm here to take you on a journey of Black cinema from the beginning to present day. In the early 1900s, it was rare to see African Americans on film. When you did, they were either extreme caricatures of themselves, white actors dressed in blackface, or black actors like Burke Williams who made fun of their blackness while also in blackface. Uncle Tom's Cabin was one of the earliest examples of a completely white cast portraying black characters while in blackface. Several years later, the 1915 film by D.W. Griffith, Birth of a Nation, was introduced. Birth of a Nation was an extremely controversial film because it's bigotry and is often regarded as the grandfather of racist films. Although there were African Americans in this film, the lead roles were again played by white actors in black makeup. This notorious scene involved a white woman who would rather throw herself off a cliff than to be caught and raped by a slave. Upset at the way African Americans were being portrayed on film, Universal actor Noble Johnson and his brother set out to show African Americans in a new light. In doing so, they founded the Lincoln Motion Picture Company, the first black-owned and operated production company to produce and distribute films of and by blacks. In the 8 years of this company's existence, from 1916 to 1923, they made several films, including The Realization of a Negro's Ambition and, most notably, A Man's Duty in 1919. Although emerging nearly 10 years after the Johnsons brothers in the late 20s, Oscar Micheaux is often regarded as the founder of black film. Not necessarily for the quality of his films, but because he was the most successful early black independent filmmaker. In 1931, Micheaux made history with his film Exile, which was the very first talking picture that was made and produced by an all-black cast and crew. The 50s and 60s were slower periods for African Americans in film, but the era still sprung up several notable films and film stars, like Sidney Poitier, Harry Belafonte, and Dorothy Dandridge, in films like Raisin in the Sun, Porgy and Bess, and Carmen Jones. Now it's the 70s, and the era of blaxploitation films are in full swing, kickstarted by Melvin Van Peebles' Sweet Sweetback's Badass Song and Gordon Parks' Shaft. Can you dig it? In these films and others during this time, black actors and actresses played heroic and powerful roles, like Jim Kelly in Black Samurai or Pam Grier in Foxy Brown. The New Age era, which lasted from the 80s through the 90s, ushered in fresh new director-cinematographer powerhouses like Spike Lee and John Singleton, with their debuts of She Gotta Have It in 1985 and Boys in the Hood in 1991. This era also brought forth films that were very real and relatable to many African Americans like Poetic Justice, School Days, and Friday. Not to mention two of the most quoted films in black film history, The Color Purple and Coming to America. At the turn of the century, things started to change for African Americans in film. Suddenly, African Americans weren't as restricted as they have been previously and were beginning to be treated as equals, at least in Hollywood. In 2002, something happened that has never happened before. Two African Americans, Denzel Washington and Halle Berry, took home Hollywood's highest honors for Best Actor and Best Actress in a leading role. Up until that point, only 14 Oscars have been given to African Americans in the Academy's 74-year history. But ever since then, that number just kept on adding up, and up, and up. Will you be next?